improve resilience and production in the system. I don't have any graphs. I've got a few definitions, and then my intention is to go into a bit of a photographic tour, I suppose. My input, I suppose, for this presentation has come from, I've been a land care coordinator for Orange Bathurst area for nearly 10 years now, and I'm also a casual lecturer at Charles State Uni in the Sustainable Ag course, teaching in things as organic agriculture, biodynamics and permaculture, so sort of that real alternative ag stuff. It's not, I suppose, my formal training. I'm a botanist by training, but have fallen into default into this more sustainable ag stuff, but biodiversity is still one of my key interests. So what I wanted to do today, it's going to be fairly quick at the beginning and hoping to get through to the more pictures at the end of it. But I want to talk about ways, I suppose, we can consider building diversity into our farming systems and how we can incorporate a knowledge of ecological function to actually design these systems to be more productive. So just to sort of, I suppose, touch diversity, what I mean, or what we all mean by diversity is diversity, I suppose, the state or the fact of being diverse, variety, multiformity. So that's what we want to target. In the context of the talk today, I'm going to briefly have a look at diverse enterprise mixes and biodiversity, and hope that the examples that I've put in show you how you can use those to build diversity into a system. So diverse enterprise mixes, I'd like us, I suppose, to go beyond thinking of production systems where you're focusing on whether it be one animal or one crop in a system, but can we actually diversify the number of crops or animal species we have in a system, but also look at integrating them, and also looking at how we might make use of different spatial or temporal needs of those enterprises and how we can integrate them more. And I think that's a really important concept to take home and to start to actually design your system rather than just run a system. In that sense, what you're aiming for is a diverse enterprise mix, which hopefully would impart then a sort of a greater financial stability or resilience, and maybe able to spread your income risk in good and bad years that we may expect to come our way, I suppose. But I suppose my training and everything, a lot of my work focuses still on that biodiversity, that biological diversity in the system. So I think we can't separate those two, even in a small farming system. And by biological diversity, talking about vegetation, so our remnant vegetation or our plantings that we do, but also all the animals, the birds, the insects and other animals we might have on farm, and also, and Claire touched on that, the soil diversity and health. How can we use all those or consider all those when designing the system? And I guess what comes down from that is that it's really clear that diversity alone, just adding species without actually thinking about how they go together, is not going to build that production or that resilience in the system. What we want to do is have an understanding of the ecology or the functions, connections and the environment of those systems that would allow us to actually actively design maybe a production system that is more resilient. And resilience, I suppose I put that in there as a definition, just saying is the capacity of a system to recover quickly or spring back from difficulties. So that's sort of what we want to aim for, and I think that's pertinent in, with some of the scenarios that Jess is saying, or even in Claire's talk when saying you've got low feed times and that. How can we actually actively design or think about our systems so that we can build that resilience in? So what I want to what I want to do now, I suppose, is really quickly go through just a few examples I've pulled together about where we might consider, or different angles that we could build diversity into systems to actually build that resilience. So first up, pollinators. So we have a huge reliance on pollinators in our agricultural system. Something like 65% of our agricultural production relies on pollinators. Mostly the honeybee, the introduced European honeybee. But we have a huge number of native bee species, so I think it's about 1,500 species, or native pollinators in Australia, probably a given 100 to maybe 200 or so in any local area. We have lots of crops, even locally, that are totally dependent on pollinators. So how can we actually build diversity into our system? How can we manage not only for the European honeybee, but maybe for all those other native pollinators, that if the European honeybee gets wiped out by a disease or a parasite, that we've actually got some backup system for our pollination system. So we need to design systems to keep our pollinators in the landscape. So we need to protect what flowering vegetation that we have in the landscape. That's really important. And also nesting sites for a lot of those bees. So whether that be open soil or trees, logs, all that sort of stuff. There's going to be cases where it will be beneficial to actually enhance habitat or actually plant flowering plants with a design purpose of actually attracting pollinators into the system and potentially new nest sites for them. We need to look at the diversity of floral resources that we have available on our farms or in our landscapes. Do we actually have floral resources that go to support our pollinators? And also pesticides is another one to look at. So that's sort of one. Going to go quickly. Nutrient cycling. So nutrient cycling, the ways we can use diversity to increase nutrient cycling. Claire touched a fair bit on that idea of healthy living soils. We need diverse pastures. We need healthy living soils, and then that may save us some of the input, the external inputs on agriculture. We'll have a soil system, build a system from the soil up and do those. One of those to boost fertility, improve water quality and all those other benefits. One of the other projects we've been running with Landcare at the moment is actually getting farmers or small and monitoring dung beetles. We think dung beetles are great, they control the bushfly populations and stuff, but they do a heap more things. So if we can get a diverse dung beetle population into it, we've got better soil aeration. The dung beetles, because they burrow down, bring the subsoil up to the top. They bring all the manure down to the bottom. They're incorporating organic matter. We want to hold that water in the soil. We want to build that organic matter in the soil. So how can we look at managing dung beetles in the landscape? And these are just examples, I suppose. The examples are nearly unlimited. Pest management and using diversity for pest management. Integrating practices like the Joel Soliton method, the polyface method of farming, where you run chickens after your cattle. The chickens can clean up the pests that are dropped out in the dung of the cattle, and they turn over the pasture and, rejuvenating pastures in that sort of sense. Can we actually design systems like that rather than running maybe two enterprises like that separate? Can they actually find the benefits of running them together or following each other in those times? Ash, you might know this place. Looking at pest management, how can we use what we've already got in the system, or how can we to do a lot of that pest management for me? And this is Ash's farm, family farm out at Sunny Corner Road there. The amount of native veg planted in among that area and reserve is a bank for insects and birds that actually predate on the pests of the crops they're growing. Can we actually design those sort of things into the system, into our systems? So a really quick tour. Fill your head with ideas. Stacking in time, that's one that we don't often think about. How can we get that diversity in time? One of the classic examples of this is the pasture cropping, where you can sow an annual winter crop like wheat or oats or something like that into a native pasture. They both have different times of growing. So the winter annual crop can grow up over winter. You can harvest it. Once you've harvested it, you can be left with a lovely annual, a lovely perennial native grass under it. So you've got a benefit of both things. How can we look at that? How can we actually stack more species into that so we've actually got a diversity of stuff? So you've got to look at when things are growing, when you can use them, and how you can stack them in time as well as in that same space. And as a last example, I want to touch on how we actually look at maybe aiming for more sustainable landscapes. So one of the examples near here is the NU Swamp Land Care Group, and you'll see a lot of this work as you come into Lucknow from Bathurst and all the trees and that have gone out there. So years and years ago, before, they actually planted 25 kilometres of corridors through 15 farms, and you can see the network of corridors through there, linking the vegetation that was on the ridges to what was around and stuff like that. So getting together as a group and thinking about how things go in I suppose in a whole landscape. And then just to focus in on one of the, John Blunt, who is the place to see as you're coming into Lucknow, is a prime wool and lamb production place. Started when he took over the farm, it's a family farm, took over the farm as a young chap, started with little vegetation. You talked to John, he was talking about how he was helping his father cut down the trees on the place. But they had lots of problems with eroding gullies, soil acidity, salinity, they had landslips, all sorts, a whole lot of it. So John has planted over 15,000 trees on that place now, convinced his father that trees are good, continues to plant trees. I think you'll be surprised if you keep watching that block. Every year there's a new corridor in, and you know, the property's over the other side of the hill as well, so there's more stuff happening. He's planted them as corridors, windbreaks in riparian areas. He's changed his management of the pastures to get better perennial pastures and improving native pastures that are existing there by grazing management. Done a lot of the Yeoman's plough work, which is a deep Yeoman's plough that doesn't actually cultivate the whole thing, but it allows better infiltration of water. He's aiming for about 20% tree cover on the place. Just a few pictures. His soils, they're beautiful. We've had a couple of soil days there. The soil health that he's developed on it with his grazing management and that, and just the outlooks on the place, going from something that was a predominantly clear landscape. So what John's document is happening there, he's got better water quality. The water quality that's going into his dam's better. The creek flows nearly year-long now, or holds water year-long. He's holding water in that landscape better. Is that important for predicted climate change? Huge. Bird numbers are increased, so better pest control. He's been able to stabilise that landslip area, removing the big wet we had the other year. Better lambing rates. So he's got a noticeable impact on increase in lambing rates, huge. Multiple benefits. He's planted his tree breaks, so he's got multiple benefits from them. So he's using his tree breaks not only for biodiversity, but to get paddock subdivision, to help with the rotational grazing, to get those windbreaks. Like trying to think of how you design something so it fits best in that landscape, so you get all those uses out of it. He has a reduced reliance on herbicides and chemical fertilisers, and also drenching and that for the sheep. Healthier soils means a better soil organic matter, which is better water retention, better fertility, all that sort of stuff. And of course it's an attractive environment to work in, adds to the land value and all that sort of stuff. So the last slide, this is not at John's place, this is at another one. This is just an example of what you can achieve, I suppose, if you sit back and you design for change and more productive systems. So that's just a really quick wrap of some of the experiences I've had working with land care and teaching in sustainable ag, and I just wanted to, I suppose, get some of those ideas going. Thanks.